Hello everyone, welcome to Finance Easy. To learn more about finance and economics, please subscribe to my channel. I am Ria, I am 17, currently studying commerce in the 12th grade of Jai Hind College of Mumbai. The lockdown gave me an opportunity to explore the real world and learn something beyond academics, where I started interning with a brokerage firm of my mentor. I have now become a finance enthusiast and share my learnings through this channel as a passion. It's been an insightful learning experience and I cannot await what the world of finance holds for me in the future. I hope you like my videos. Thank you. So whenever I read the news, I always came across this term GDP and I wondered what does it mean and why are they talking about the country's GDP. So if you're wondering too, continue watching this video because today we are going to talk about GDP. GDP, that stands for Gross Domestic Product, is the monetary value of all the finished goods and services produced within a country during a specific period. As of 2021, the GDP of India is $3.5 trillion. Let's understand this by taking some real-life examples. So a cake you buy for your birthday is a part of the GDP. A pizza you and your friends order is a part of the GDP. A cab ride to travel to the office is a part of the GDP. And all the other things you do which involves the consumption of money is a part of the country's GDP. But also remember that a country's GDP only constitutes finished goods. For example, there is a baker who buys chocolates to make a cake. Here only the cake is a part of the GDP because it is a finished good or a final product which is sold to the consumer. Whereas the chocolates are not a part of the GDP because they are unfinished products. But here in case 2, when a consumer is buying chocolates, it is a part of the GDP because it is the finished product or the final product a consumer is buying. So that will be a part of our GDP. Another crucial thing to remember is that only the goods and services produced within the borders of a country is a part of that country's GDP. Let's take an example. There are two consumers from two different countries, India and UK. If a consumer from the UK purchases chocolates from India, that is a part of the Indian GDP because these chocolates have been produced or manufactured in India. But if a consumer from India purchases chocolates from the UK, then that is a part of the UK GDP because those chocolates have been manufactured or produced in the UK. Similarly, the value of IBM services will be a part of the Indian GDP because the company is in India. However, the value of steel produced by Tata Steel in a plant set up in the UK will be a part of the UK GDP because the plant is in the UK. Now let's understand what does GDP indicate or why do we look at GDP? Firstly, GDP acts as a comprehensive scorecard of a given country's economic health. It provides an economic snapshot of a country used to estimate the size of an economy and the growth rate. It is a key tool to guide policymakers, investors, and businesses in strategic decision making. Our world GDP is $91.98 trillion as of 2021. So let's check out the top 10 countries' GDP. And as you can see, US leads the economy of the world and India is on the 6th rank. Thus, GDP gives us an economic snapshot of each country. Now let's look at the two types of GDP. Nominal GDP accounts for current market prices without factoring deflation or inflation, meaning it tracks general changes in the economy over time. The second one is real GDP, which is most widely used by all the economists because it factors inflation and accounts for the overall rise in price levels. It's more accurate for calculating a country's economic health. We will be focusing on real GDP because it is the most widely used metric. The formula to calculate real GDP, which is the expenditure approach, is C plus I plus G plus NX. I'll break it down. C stands for consumption, I stands for investments, G stands for government spending, and NX stands for net exports, which is total exports minus total imports. Let's simplify this by using some day-to-day examples and place them in these categories. Suppose you buy a pen, that is consumption of money as a consumer, so it will go in C, consumption. Sale of machinery is an investment in capital assets, so it will go in I, investments. A restaurant bill which you've paid as a final consumer for the services of the restaurant is C, consumption. Wages paid to a government employee is a part of government spending, thus it will go in G, government spending. Value of new house constructed is an investment in the economy of the country, thus it will go in I, investments. Value of an iPhone imported will fall under imports. Value of wheat exported will fall under exports. The difference of these two will count as NX in the GDP, that is net exports. And that's how every transaction of money in the country is bifurcated into these categories which constitute our GDP. This is the sector-wise contribution of GDP in India. The three main sectors are agriculture, industry and services. Agriculture as a whole contributes 20% to the Indian GDP, which also constitutes forestry and fishing. Industry as a whole contributes 26% to the Indian GDP, which constitutes mining and quarrying contributing 2%, manufacturing contributing 14%, electricity, gas, water supply and other utility services contributing 3%, and construction contributing 7%. And services, which is the major chunk, contributes 54% as a whole. It constitutes public administration, defense and other services contributing 15%, financial, real estate and professional services contributing 22%, trade, hotels, transport, communication and services related to broadcasting contributing 16%. So this is the breakdown of the contribution of different sectors to our Indian GDP. This is a distribution of GDP across the three main sectors over the last decade. Agriculture has grown from 17% to 18%, industry has declined from 30% to 23%, and service has grown from 45% to 49%. So the focus has shifted from agriculture to service, and industry has started fading. Let's look at the cycle of GDP when it's increasing and decreasing. When GDP increases, growth can generate virtuous circles of prosperity and opportunity. It leads to a higher national income and enables a rise in the living standards. But when GDP is decreasing, because of insufficient consumer demand, it reduces the average income of the business. Reduction in the average income of the business then signals a squeeze in the job opportunities. Businesses lay off their workers, reducing the average income of the workers as well. Thus, the entire cycle has an effect of reducing the per capita income of the country. Plus, if the rate of GDP growth falls below the rate of labor force growth, there won't be enough new jobs created to accommodate all new job seekers. Put differently, the unemployment rate will rise. Let's look at the impact of declining GDP and what does the government do. A fall in per capita income reduces the tax revenue for the government. This is because when people earn less, it affects their spending capacity, which leads to less tax revenue for the government. Less revenue for the government reduces the amount spent on public services, including investment and infrastructure. The government then looks for alternate sources to cover the shortfall, like increasing taxes on petrol, diesel, or borrowing money. The government would also reduce interest rates so that instead of depositing money in the bank, people would spend, which would increase consumption, lead to more tax revenue and a healthy economy. For stock market investors, annual growth in GDP is vital. If the overall economic output is declining or merely holding steady, most companies will not be able to increase their profits, which is the primary driver of stock performance. However, too much GDP is also dangerous, as it will most likely come with an increase in inflation, which erodes the stock market gains by making our money less valuable. Inflation referred here is typically a broad measure such as the overall increase in prices or the increase in the cost of living in a country. As inflation is another important metric, I would like to cover that in a separate video soon. Most economists today agree that 2.5 to 3.5% GDP growth per year is the most that our economy can safely maintain without causing negative side effects. Let's look at how the COVID-19 pandemic has had an effect on our economy. India's GDP shrank 7.3% in the year 2020-21. This was the worst performance of the Indian economy in any year since independence. As of now, India's GDP growth is likely to be below 10%. The government should be ready to spend billions of dollars to fight the health crisis and fast-track the economic recovery from the COVID-19 instigated recession. The most effective way out of this emergency is that the government should inject billions of dollars into the economy. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Do like, share, comment and subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on Instagram and connect with me on LinkedIn. The links are in the description given below.